Hi everyone, Anne-Marie here, and I'll be tackling this week's Think Big Thursday question, which is, how can I trust God? That's a pretty fair question, because Christians talk all the time about trusting God. But how do we actually do that when we can't see him, and sometimes it feels like we wonder, where is God? Is God even there? What's he doing? So this is a pretty big part of what being a Christian is trusting in God. So we're going to have a little look at how we do that. Okay, so first of all, what actually is trust? Well, trust means having a firm belief in something or someone. For example, when you sat down on your sofa or the chair that you're sitting in, you probably didn't even think about it, but you trusted that that chair or sofa would hold you up. You know that it has every single time you've sat in it so far, so it didn't probably enter your mind to think, is this chair going to be safe? Is this chair trustworthy? Can I trust this sofa? Important questions, but they probably didn't even come into your mind. You just believed that the sofa would hold you. You trusted it. And we can trust people around us in a similar way. We can rely on them to support us. So you might rely on your teacher to help you learn. You might rely on your friends to cheer you up after a bad day. You might rely on the people who care for you at home to look after your needs and to support you in whatever way you need it. And for Christians, we want to trust God in that same way, relying on him and trusting that he will be there to support us. Now, one day my lovely sofa behind me will get worn out and it'll have to be replaced. And even though I know my friends are there for me, they're still human beings, and one day they might make a mistake, just as I might make a mistake and let them down as well. But the Bible tells us that God is perfect. He never makes any mistakes, and that he doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that he keeps his promises. So why is it so hard to trust God if he never changes, if he's always faithful and keeps his promises? Why do we struggle to trust him? Well, I think it's partly because we can't see and touch God in the same way I can see and touch my sofa. It's harder for us to trust something that we can't see. Now, the Bible says faith, trusting, is a gift from God, and that when we struggle to trust him, we can ask him to give us faith to help us. In fact, Christians use lots of picture language as well to help us understand how this works and how we can trust God. You see, think about the wind. We can't see the wind, but we can feel it when it blows through our hair, and we can feel it on our bodies, and we can see it as it blows the trees and the waves on the sea. So we can't actually see the wind itself, but we can see the effect it has. God is a bit like that, in that we can't necessarily see him face to face in the same way we can normal people, but we can feel his presence with us, and we can see the effect that God has on the world. But trusting God is a lot more than just knowing in our heads that maybe God is around and maybe God is working. In fact, trusting is an action that we do. It implies that we have to do something as well, not just knowing it in our heads, but actually putting it into action. That's what being a Christian is really all about, putting that trust in God into action. Now, I've got another illustration that might help explain a little bit more about what I mean. So, here are my skates. I love these. These are some of my most favourite things that I own. You can see that the outside is really rock hard and the inside is nice and soft and squishy, and that helps support my foot and my ankle when I'm skating. But the most interesting part that I want to talk about today is this bit along here, the blade. You can see it's got a spiky bit at the front there. This is our toe pick because it's near the toe. And this is what helps us to do jumps and different maneuvers and helps us to land safely as well. And then there's this long bit along here, which is actually not completely flat. It's slightly curved, and this is what helps us to do spins and to do turns quickly and smoothly on the ice. And it has a little bit that comes out the back, which helps us to balance as well. Now, it might look like it, but this isn't actually flat. I know I said it's got a curve, but also the blade itself, you can't really see on camera, but it is a U shape turned down like that one. So I guess like an N, a lowercase n. And when we skate well, I have to lean on to one of those edges. So I'm on just this tiny bit of the blade right here. And that's really scary because it means I have to lean so that the boot is like this on the ice. And it feels like you're going to fall over, but actually that's when you're most safe. It's much safer to skate on a really deep edge than is just on the flat. And it's a little bit like that when we trust God too. We have to lean into Him. Can't see Him there, can't touch Him, just like on the ice. I can't lean onto the wall the whole time, especially if I want to do really exciting things like jumps and spins. I have to be out in the middle and I have to lean and trust that my edge will hold me. In life, even though I can't see God there, I have to lean on Him and I have to trust that He is there to hold me up. When I'm on the ice and I'm skating and it is scary for me to lean, I rely on my coach to encourage me, to keep telling me, you need to lean more, you need to be more on that edge, deepen it, because I know that he's trying to get me to skate better and more safely. So what happens in life when it's difficult and scary for us to lean on God and to trust Him? Well, there are a few things that can help. First of all, remember what I said earlier, faith is a gift from God. If you want to trust God, but you're finding it hard, tell Him about it. Ask Him to give you more faith so that you can meet His promises. Or maybe you'd like to read some of the stories in the Bible where God shows that He keeps His promises. The whole story of the Bible is God keeping promises that He made right at the very beginning of time. And if you remember that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that He never changes, that means that those promises that He made to people maybe 1,000 years ago, He keeps those promises even today for you and me. Now, as always with these big questions, you need big answers too, and that takes a lot more time than we have for these videos, so I hope that this has helped just a tiny little bit, even though it's just a small snippet. There are lots of ways that can help us to trust God, and lots of reasons as well that we can find in our lives, in the world around us. So maybe you'd like to pick up a Bible and see if you can find some of those stories. Maybe have a look on YouTube for God keeping His promises. Maybe you could talk with a Christian that you know. Ask them, how has God kept His promises? Or what helps you to trust God when it's difficult and scary? Now, there's a quote that I've heard a few times that I think really sums up what I'm trying to say with my answer here. It says, when you can't trace His hand, trust His heart. And that basically means when you can't see what God is doing, when you don't see Him there, trust God's heart. The Bible tells us, and I've seen in my life too, that God is very loving and very good. So when I'm scared, when I'm afraid, when I'm worried and I don't know what God's up to, and I can't really see, hear or feel Him in my life, I know that I can trust His promises, because I can trust His heart, which is loving and good. So how do I trust God? In lots of different ways. Even when it's scary, even when it's hard, I have to remember that God is always there. And that's all that faith really is. So I hope this video has helped, and we will see you again soon. Bye for now.